This episode of the Aquarius Podcast is sponsored by Aquarium Co-op. Corey and the team at Aquarium Co-op have redefined the tropical fish and plant buying experience. Aquarium Co-op provides incredibly healthy fish, gorgeous plants, and top quality lights, food, and accessories at competitive prices. So how do I know this? Well, I'm fortunate enough to call them my local fish store where I've purchased many of the aforementioned items. Now, you may not live in the greater Seattle area, but that shouldn't stop you from checking them out. Pay close attention. Listeners of this podcast can get 5% off aquariumcoop.com orders by using the promo code Aquarius5 at checkout. One more time, that promo code is Aquarius5. And if their retail operation wasn't enough, they bring exceptional video content through the Aquarium Co-op YouTube channel. I encourage you to check out the instructional how-to, travel, and fish room tour videos. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Lastly, be sure to share the Aquarius Podcast with your fish nerd friends. Now, on to the interview. Today's date is Sunday, September 2nd, 2018. My guests today are Gino, DiNella, and Jorge Garcia. Together, they are the owners of Pleco Paradise, LLC. And tonight, we're going to have our first dual guest interview. So Gino and Jorge, welcome to the Aquarius Podcast.
Thanks for having us, man. Thank you very much. Glad to be here. It's an honor.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the show. So we're definitely going to try and be somewhat entertaining.
No worries. And you know, it's about 8:30 here on the West Coast for me. It is was it 10:30 for you guys?
Correct.
Yeah. So thank you very much for staying up late. And on that note, where are you guys located?
We're about a half hour outside of Chicago in Addison, Illinois.
Okay. Very cool. And so, you know, usually the way we kick this episode off or the show off is, you know, we do the origin story and then we kind of, you know, build through the progression of, you know, the guests that I'm interviewing, and then we kind of have a meat and potato subject. But, you know, it's going to be a little bit different today since I've got two guests on right now. So whoever wants to go first, Gino and Jorge, why don't you go ahead and walk me through your progression in the hobby, and maybe we'll just go back and forth and we'll get to the point where we're talking about Pleco Paradise.
Yeah, of course. It just started with a 55. For me, it started with a 55-gallon tank and just a passion for wanting to keep fish. And of course, I went through the struggles of setting up your first tank, keeping fish alive, and learning all that stuff. Went from a 55 to a 120, up to 15 tanks in a room, 20 tanks in a room, and then into a it then turned into a business. You know, just something I'm passionate about. Jorge and I both work full-time jobs as well, and
that's actually how we met. We met at our current employer, and he's actually the one who got me seriously into the hobby, because I did like the whole, you know, fish, you know, the goldfish tank, all that, the beta tank growing up, and nothing ever serious. And it wasn't until I met him that I actually started diving into it and then just going kind of nuts. And my progression was the same as his. It started off with like a 75, and then it blew up into having 8 tanks in my place, and I lived in like a 2-bedroom apartment, you know.
Nice.
It was very humid.
So you don't have to say who your current employer is right now, but what industry are you guys in?
It actually kind of fits that we actually sell fish, because we're actually in the auto industry. We actually work sales. So we have a very hectic schedule. We work a lot of hours, and honestly, I'm starting to think we're workaholics, because we work a very crazy schedule at work, and then on top of that, like you're saying, thanks for staying up late. This is like when we start to do stuff, you know what I mean? Like
we're gonna go hit the fish room after this and clean about 40
It's no big deal for us to be awake till 2, 3 in the morning, whether we're talking to exporters overseas or cleaning tanks or yada yada yada. Customers, tons of people in California. The time zone difference really kind of hits us there.
Oh, nice. So your coworkers must think you guys are crazy then, right?
Oh, yeah.
They don't,
super do.
Most definitely.
Not even a question.
Everyone thinks we're nuts. You import fish, like, to eat?
Yeah.
No. We don't import frozen tilapia or anything. We import live.
People buy those?
Ornamental fish, yeah.
And then when we get something really expensive, and they spend how much on that?
Yeah, you have to love the
oddballs.
You have to love the sticker shock from people that are outside of the hobby.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So let's go back a little bit and talk about you know, you started with a 55-gallon. What were you into? What were you keeping, and how have your tastes changed as you you know, progressed in the hobby?
The first fish I ever bought was an albino bristlenose short fin. I've for some reason loved plecos like ever since the day I even got interested in fish. You know, my next door neighbor, who was my best friend, and my cousin, they kind of got me into the hobby. a while back because they've always been into animals and fish specifically. But yeah, the first fish I ever bought was a pleco.
And it was an albino bristlenose shortfin pleco on top of that?
It was a short fin, yeah.
Wow.
There's short fin and long fin versions, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how many people I've ever talked to, or even in general out there, that was like one of their first fish, let alone their very first fish.
I saw this big 5-inch fat male with a bunch of bristles on his face. I'm like, what the heck is that? I gotta have it.
Very cool. And so then, so what did you keep from there? I mean, were you doing South American cichlids? Were you doing African cichlids? What was your taste?
I kind of did both. I did a lot more South American, kind of just everything, and I got to the point where I had a few tanks running, and one of the tanks was kind of just an assortment of, aggressive South American, Central American cichlids, redheads and spilums, some of the Vieja family, and of course the common stuff, Jack Dempsey's and Texas cichlids. Started off with the kind of the beginner cichlids, I guess you can say. Plecos, always had a bunch of plecos, and then I had a 120 that I bought one day and was pretty excited about that. I threw a bunch of Texas Holy Rock in there and probably had about 75 African cichlids, mostly peacocks. And so I've done a little bit of both, but South America, that's what I love the most. And oddball fish too, a lot of bashirs and knife fish, the weird stuff.
And so are you a collector at this point, or are you doing any like serious breeding of these fish?
We're mostly collectors right now. We have quite a few groups of fish that we'd like to breed. We just need to set them up properly and separate them from their community tanks that they're in. We do a lot of just bringing in fish, bring them in, medicate them, get them out, rotate. Okay,
so you've got, you're saying you went from a 55-gallon to a 120 to 15 to 20 tanks in a fish room. Along comes George. You get this guy into the hobby as well. You guys are buddy, just fish nerding out. Walk me through hey man, I got an idea. Let's do Pleco Paradise, right? Like, so how does that all come about?
That was actually Gino starting that off. He decided he really wanted to do that full time. He actually ended up quitting and started the company. I was just friends with him at a time. I was collecting. I was getting crazy. I was into different things than him. Yeah. At that time. I went nuts with, I went from African cichlids for a while, and then after that I went nuts into discus. And going nuts in the discus just taught me a lot of things. It's just a very involving fish, so I had to really just take a crash course and learn everything I possibly could about just a variety of different things I was going to deal with. And him being the Pleco nerd and me at that point needing a Pleco, we went to a swap together. While we were at the swap together, I ended up buying my first, starting the whole process of the L333 to kick it off. My son's very favorite fish ever. It made no sense. I had a bunch of beautiful discus tanks, and he was just focused on that. But now when we went to the swap, we saw all this. It did kind of put the seed in our mind that, maybe we could do something like this because we're passionate about what we do, and, we know a fair amount of information, so we do help out some of the people in the local community when they were going through things. And the seed got planted there. Gino ended up jumping ship from work for a little bit, going headfirst into it. It didn't really plant with me just yet. I probably didn't jump on board for 6 months. And then once we jumped on board, LLC came along. We started ordering from suppliers in Florida and just local suppliers. And it kind of went like that. We were very much in the growing stage. So we were ordering from people in the U.S., we were selling in the local community. We weren't shipping yet. And mostly just focusing on expansion, a.k.a. every time we made money, all we really did was spend it on food, heaters, tanks, wood to build stands, things like that. So it was mostly just us finding cool stuff that we liked, keeping the ones that we wanted, selling the rest off, and then growing. And things probably really took off about a year and some change ago once we started importing our fish ourselves and not dealing with any U.S. suppliers. It was definitely a rocky road a little bit because it was a learning curve for us, but doing that and then shipping completely elevated us. It was, at that point, a really, really rapid progression for us, and it became really fun. You know what I mean? As far as collectors right now, he's definitely a collector. Right now, I'm not spoiling myself yet. Every now and then I walk into, the living room by, where the fish room's at, and I see in the tank like all these random fish that we caught in that we loved, and I just find them. I'm like, okay, well, there's where that went. Okay.
Yeah.
And I just throw like just subtle like things out there like, oh, look it's one of the filamentoses, and he's like, yeah. So he's collecting right now. I haven't spoiled myself yet. I would like to do it again soon, but I'm waiting until I think we are where I want us to be before I start collecting, and I'm like really excited. I've been building a dream tank in my head for the past year.
I can't help myself.
Yeah, no, Gino, I think I'm like you, man. I have if I think of something, man, I pretty much have to go after it. I don't. It's hard to wait. So help me understand the operations, right? So when we started out, did we just convert Gino's tanks? I mean, are we in a warehouse space? What did that look like?
So when we started off, capital is a huge thing, and we kind of wanted to test the waters with the business. I wanted to start the business because number one, I'm super passionate about it, but number two, I had always gotten a lot of fish from pretty much everywhere, and just kind of noticed how things were being done. This is a business; it's kind of growing. So we set up some fish in our basement. That was the only way we were able to do it. Start off in the home, see how things go. So that's what we did. We set up a big rack in the back of my basement, central system, which big learning curve, obviously. But, it's pretty much it. We had to start in our house. We kind of had no choice.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Now, are you still in the basement right now?
Yeah, well, we're in a different basement now. We've definitely made some changes, and we've made some moves. We have a lot more tanks than we used to. Yeah, we're still in the basement. We've been running 2 years. June 6th was our 2-year anniversary. And the first 6 months or so, we're just, troubleshooting. Where do we order from? What do we order? This and that. Kind of just a lot to learn.
And so by rough counts, when you guys by a rough count, when you guys first started, how many tanks did you have? To how many tanks are you guys operating right now?
Yeah, when we started the business, we had 12, 13, we had about 16 tanks or so. Combination of like 30-gallon longs, 40-gallon longs, a few 75s, some 55s, 33 longs, a bunch of random assortment. We had a couple 150s, a 200, a 120, and we had this 300-gallon pond. It wasn't a pond. It's like a stock tank, if you will, that we used for larger fish, larger tanks for larger fish or larger groups of fish. And we had about, I'd say 15 to 20. Then it turned into 30. Now we're up to about 50 tanks or so, and about 49 species.
Oh, wow.
Of fish.
Very cool. And so you had talked about how this last year and a half has really been a ramp up on the business. So can you kind of walk through again what of those changes that have happened in the last year?
The big change for us was beginning to import, actually buying from the suppliers in South America. One, it helped us just get a lower buying price. Well, we didn't factor in how expensive shipping was at that time, but we learned that when we did our first order. But with that being said, that was probably the big thing, because we were able to actually have access to, start making requests for certain things and just getting better quality than we were used to getting from the local suppliers. So that was a big key thing for us, because we were bringing in a lot more rare species, larger. They were a little bit more affordable for us. That was one of the big things. The one that followed right after that was shipping. We had access to a lot more customers than we did before. Chicago is still a big area. Working all the local spots is still great. We were still doing well for ourselves, but it really helped us grow once we had access to people that were around the country who were struggling to find some of the things that we were able to bring in. And that was really those two things having in combination was the big jump.
And so I guess before you made the jump to doing the importing, so let's go back to your suppliers are in the United States. So you start up Pleco Paradise, and do you basically just need kind of a wholesale license to start talking with some of these distributors in the United States?
Oh, yes, most definitely. You have to be a registered retailer with the state of which you reside in or where your business is. And there's definitely some major steps. You have to form a company and tax ID numbers, bank accounts, all this stuff. They're definitely not open to the public. You have to fill out applications and get approved and this and that. So it's definitely a bit of a process.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Some investment.
And so,
definitely.
And so, I guess how much of that on this journey, right? Even with setting up to do business here in the United States, not even doing the importing, how many like lessons learned did you think you went through?
Oh, I've lost count. They never end. The lessons learned never end, man. Never end. I can't imagine me being 20 years into the industry and not still learning. Everything you can imagine in terms of just doing the paperwork to open up the business, all the way up to bringing the fish in and keeping them alive and marketing them correctly, and it never ends. And the times change. Identification, that's huge. Yeah,
that's a bigger step now than it was before, but even so, still the same thing.
Identifying the fish that we bring in. Sometimes we get some fish that might be questionable based off what we ordered. Most of the time, it's not a problem. But you learn constantly. Yeah, you learn from the customers constantly too. That never ends either.
Yeah, and I think that's very cool that you guys have this, you still have this passion for the business, you have this passion for the hobby, that even as you're hitting all of these hurdles and all of the red tape that it takes just to do something as simple as, find cool fish and make them available to other people, that, you're hitting these hurdles, you're having these lessons learned, but you're still going with it, right? You're going strong. And then you say, let's go ahead and take it to the next level and let's start importing. So, without giving away your sources, and I want you guys to be able to retain some of that competitive edge maybe that you've built up, but how did that first conversation go when you're reaching out to somebody in South America to try to start bringing in fish directly?
Oh man,
that was pretty shaky.
That's always God.
I think I was using Google Translate, and
when you realize that they do it for me.
Yeah, basically, I sent a bunch of messages to some people in Brazil and Portuguese, and some people in Colombia and Spanish, and it translated obviously, but it kind of comes out all backwards and stuff. And
nowadays we just talk in broken English.
Yeah, then they would. Exactly. Then they'd respond in their language, and I have to go and translate. Sometimes the messages I would have to decode. Like, what is this guy saying? But then we just started speaking, real short, real quick to the point English.
And a picture, can you get?
Yeah, can get this ? And it's been working out pretty well.
How much ? What size? Oh, that's always fun because, we think after this point, as much stuff as we import, that we can tell you exactly what centimeters to inches are. But, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a tricky one. So how many countries are you guys importing fish from?
Really just 3 countries right now. We go to
primarily.
We go to Peru a lot.
Yeah, we have a really good guy in Peru that we really like to work with. He's just a joy to deal with.
Colombia quite often.
Mm-hmm. Brazil is probably Pleco Central pretty much.
They have every popular Pleco you can think of.
Yeah, that's the one thing, this is Pleco Paradise. Brazil has some of the most popular Plecos out there, but we have been going nuts in Peru lately because you were talking about passions. One of the passions we definitely have is for stuff you don't see. Like Gino hit it on the head, oddballs. I'm in love with whiptails. He's in love with whiptails. A lot of really nice ones come from there. And we have a passion for bringing in things that are just not seen in the hobby ever. Not because it's just popularity issues, but just how difficult it is to get them. Some of these things, a lot of the stuff we get, they catch by hand, but comes from really remote parts. Like we imported for the first time, I'm going to butcher the name, the Funchiloricaria nanodans, the second time they ever left the country of Peru. First time they ever came into America was this past month.
With us, yeah.
Yeah, it was just to see them. They're just you see some really beautiful stuff out there that most people don't even know exists.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think because I was so hardcore into Plecos, I've researched Plecos, and obviously Brazil has quite a few of the gold nuggets and a lot of Pseudacanthicus 273 Titanics and all types of stuff, mangoes and para Plecos, L75s. Pretty much every gorgeous Pleco you can think of, you could.
The typhoon.
The typhoon, you can guarantee it comes from Brazil. And Colombia and Peru have great Plecos too, but since I was so into Plecos, I studied Brazil. Once we got in contact with some people in Peru, we were like, what the heck what are these fish? We did a lot of Google searching when we got those lists, and that's why we've stuck there for a while, because we're bringing in so many random fish that you don't see or people haven't even heard of, and that actually sets us aside a little bit, because at the end of the day, we're still working out of our basement, and there's a lot of local fish stores that bring in pretty much the same fish every week after week, month after month. So we make sure we give people a reason to come over to our house or buy from us by offering fish that you're not going to see at your local fish store. There's some really renowned local fish stores in the U.S. that bring in cool stuff, but most of them bring in the more common stuff that you can kind of find everywhere. So we try to stay different, set ourselves apart from the typical local fish store, and bring in some rare stuff.
Yeah, so now I'm wondering, do you guys have like any specialty customers that, they always want, the most exotic, the most expensive, whatever it may be, and, they have you on speed dial, right? Like maybe they keep a low-key profile, but they're like, hey, Gino, can you get this for me? And you kind of have to, you go out there and try to source these particular fish for these guys. Anything like that?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I'd say we have quite a few customers that turn to us specifically to get them things they haven't been able to find, have been searching for years. People will search for fish for years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and then it pops up one day. And
and then usually when it pops up, we get the message from them, I can't believe you have these cheap, because they've been fantasizing them for so long. They put this fictitious price on them. But yeah, we definitely have people out there who special order some. I can think of somebody right now who, if the fish isn't, 15 inches or better, he's not going to touch it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It has to be rare. It has to be huge. And he does not care. It has to be a big, like, oh my God, I've picked up children that weigh less than this fish.
Wow, and so I'm just fascinated by this kind of a Pleco collector mentality. Is this somebody that again wants to be a breeder, or is it just somebody that just wants to have big old Plecos in their tank?
It's a variety of things. Like I said, sorry about interrupting. I'm bad at that. But it's a variety of things. We have breeders that just look for really odd stuff to try and breed, and then there's the person who's a collector. Ironically, most of the specialty customers are typically collectors. They're not really looking for multiples of these fish. They want one or two, maybe three, but they just want something that when you walk up to their tank, you just say wow, or your eyes bulge, or you're like, but that's, you just stutter.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. We have some customers that have a bunch of tanks, and they're all big, multiple 300, 400, 500-gallon tanks. They can put some big fish in there, and they want to get some collectors. And some people say, I'm going to give a stab at breeding this. I got a 600-gallon stock tank in the garage. Get me 10 of these so I can see what happens. And if nothing happens, they're still totally satisfied. If something happens, that's good.
So as far as your customer base, I guess I'm imagining that since you are, you're out of your home business in the greater Chicago area, you're going to have a lot of Chicago area, a lot of Midwest customers. But since you've expanded your reach and now you're starting to reach across the country, are there any parts of the country or any states in particular that have kind of surprised you? Like, oh man, I can't believe that this state or this part of the country would have so many, people interested in this kind of Pleco or this kind of catfish.
I don't know that it would be that a specific state has been interested in a specific type of fish. We have customers all over the place, and it's crazy. Yeah, I think it's blown both of our minds since we started shipping. We're pretty popular apparently in California. We have quite a few customers in that area that order from us.
That area just tends to be a little bit more affluent just from the cost of living there.
Yeah.
More people have money to spend on hobbies like this. But it's like a mix, yeah. California would be a big one, and then just odds and end states. And no offense to any of the people listening out there, I'm not disrespecting your state, but like something like Idaho, Nebraska, North Dakota, where there's not as big, or there aren't as many major cities like say Chicago, LA, New York City, things like that. So they don't have access the same way that the big metropolises do. I would say just a lot of states like that tend to be really good for us because we bring in rare stuff even for like a big metropolis like Chicagoland area, but They don't have anything like that. They drive an hour and a half to go to Petco, which is not going to have anywhere near the, I'm not going to say quality, but I'm going to say just how rare the species are. They're going to stock more common stuff that's going to sell, if that makes sense.
No, in rural areas, you're not going to see local mom and pop shops where you can get, hard to get fish or fish you don't see too often. So I guess it made sense. We were surprised at first, like, oh, really? We're sending this all the way out there and into the middle of nowhere, but it does make sense because they can't. You might have a 2-hour drive, like George said, to Walmart. So there's definitely not going to be a high-quality fish store in between your house and the 2-hour Walmart. You know, maybe.
More than likely.
Most of the time there's not.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. I mean, it's great to hear that we've got, you know, such a reach for this hobby. You know, whether your thing is the fancy exotic plecos or more common fish, but that we do see, you know, people in all parts of the country that are enjoying this hobby. So I think that's really cool. Going back to the importing, right? So we've got the 3 countries primarily that you're importing from. Have either of you got a chance to actually go out there, meet, you know, the people that you're doing collecting with, your suppliers, or actually do any collecting yourself?
We have never done it. That is a goal for our anniversary day. I don't know if we can do it for 3 years, but 4 years definitely we have to. Yeah, we have to.
And where do you think
it's in the works.
Where do you think you want to do it?
Yeah.
We haven't been out there. We haven't been out to any of those places yet.
Which country would you want to do?
What's that?
Which country would you want to do?
I'd want to go to Brazil. I'd want to go to Brazil and at least see the facilities that these fish are kept in. I'd die to go catch them myself. That'd be great. Yeah.
For me, it's 100% Peru. 100% Peru.
Oh,
you know,
nice. Okay.
I've seen a lot of collection videos from. We both see them because, you know, we talk to a lot of our exporters and we love to see videos from them. So we have a bunch and we post them on our Instagram. We posted them on our Facebook page. You know, of Panak collection sites in Colombia, holding facilities for, you know, some of the phantoms in Colombia. But the reason Peru just stands out for me is because I have such a whiptail fetish, and it's just a lot of cool stuff comes from there, man. You know what I mean? Like, I'm really passionate about that particular like segment of the hobby. That no-brainer for me.
Yeah,
I love plecos, but I'm really going nuts about whiptails.
So Gino, George is 100% on Peru. Can you bend off of Brazil for this first time going out there on your anniversary for on a collecting trip to Peru?
I would be more than happy to accommodate George and go to Peru. No, honestly, I'd be more than happy to go to any of the countries we order from. I've never really been anywhere like that before, so
yeah, you know,
experience alone would be great.
Yeah. I mean, so if we're talking, this is something within the next like 2 or 3 years, I think you guys need to get, you need to package it up so it's, you know, Pleco Paradise, customers of Pleco Paradise. Try to get like a group trip down there, and then stay in touch with me because I would love to go down there. If you know the stars were to align and it worked out, man, I think that would be an awesome, fun opportunity.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Oh,
yeah.
We've already looked into the cost. Trust me. There's a Facebook page for one company. It's called Go Wild Peru.
Yeah.
And it's ran by a guy named Ian Fuller. Posts a lot of cool stuff. But yeah, I've already looked into the cost. I've talked to people from other countries who have gone collecting, and yeah, it's definitely a serious goal of ours.
Yeah, Go Wild Peru. They're getting a lot of YouTube love right now. Corey from Aquarium Co-op, he just got back from his trip down there, and so he's put those videos
we
up.
met him at Aquatic Aquashella.
Yeah, very cool. So let's talk about Aquashella. How was that experience for you guys?
Fantastic, man.
Oh my God,
that was a great time.
So that
was a very crazy event. We did not have a lot of time to work with, and we're very proud of how well we managed to set up with the little
amount of time that we had.
I mean, a lot of people prep for that show for 6 months. We had a 28-day window heads up. And, yeah, it was a crazy event, and we met a lot of really cool people in the hobby. 10 out of 10, I would do it again. Yeah, that was probably one.
It was great.
Yeah, I mean, we're still smiling thinking about it. It was a very fun event.
It was one of those events that you talk about until there's another event that's better than that one, and that could be a long time. Trust me, that could be a few years or something.
Yeah, big shout to George and Sean who put that together.
Yeah, definitely.
They did a great job. They did a great job. Coral Fish 12, I believe, is his YouTube, and then Sean is a sales rep from Fritz. They put that whole thing together, and not to mention Rafael Campos from RC Autoworks, who put RC Studios, who did all the artwork. I mean, those 3 guys move mountains.
I don't think they even slept for like 2 weeks straight.
I was going to say, because as a vendor, I swear to God, on a 3-day weekend before like the show started and it ended, I got 7 hours of sleep.
Oh wow!
I was averaging 2 hours of sleep a day.
So going
it was a crazy event. I mean, yeah. If you could see my face right now, you'd be like, "Holy crap! I'm gonna buy tickets for that now."
It was good. It was good.
For Pleco Paradise,
it was unlike any other show that anybody's ever been to. That most definitely, it wasn't just a banquet hall or a convention center full of displays and tanks. There was a ton of artwork involved, music, an after party. It was most definitely an event. You know, you go there, you see some awesome stuff, you meet some great people, you buy some stuff if you want to, and you party, you hang out, listen to some music, enjoy the artwork. It was definitely a show. It was great. It was a great time.
So for you guys, going to Aquashella as vendors, what was your aim? Was your aim to just build more brand awareness of Pleco Paradise, or were you actually hoping to move some of the Plecos that maybe you brought along with you as a showcase?
We actually brought a lot of stuff there that we did not intend to sell whatsoever. I mean, it would have been great if we did. 100% was hoping we would, but we walked in there knowing we were going to bring stuff that a lot of people weren't going to touch because it was just way too high end. We went in there with the intent to, yes, sell some fish, meet some people, network with other people in the industry, but honestly, we went in there to end up on YouTube. I mean, just to be honest, we went there for the shock and awe factor because, I mean, it was going to be, even though it had never had a show before, this was their very first event, right out the gate, we knew this was going to be a huge thing, so we, excuse my language, we went, balls to the wall on that one. We went all the way out.
Yeah, Aquashella was definitely, it was an opportunity for us to show everybody what we're capable of, and that's important, obviously, because we're trying to do some big things, we're trying to do some awesome things, and yeah, that show was the perfect opportunity for us to showcase ourselves, what we're able to bring in, and just meet a ton of people. That was my favorite part of it. We just met so many people in the industry, hobbyists in the industry, or businesses in the industry, and that's important too.
On a side note, quick shout out to some of the people who showed out with us. Jeffrey Moyd, Exotic Discus, great guy. Christina Ganji at Gold Coast, awesome to have met her. Justin at Dats, I mean, God, great company, local in the area, reads a ton of stuff. Shout out to the UFA. Kevin at K&M Caves, cool guy. I mean, we had a nice set of vendors in our little area.
Nice,
Man,
yeah.
The names of the beta importers.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a great event where even the vendors around you, you're able to meet them, you're able to mingle and build, what sounds like some pretty good, strong friendships and maybe even working relationships for you guys.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%.
So now
we're all in this together. We all offer a little bit of different stuff. Some people offer these fish and those fish, food, decorations. We're all in this together. It was a good time. We all became friends, and when it comes to shows like Aquashella and stuff like that, we're a family, man. We're setting up at the same time. We're working through the event at the same time. It creates a little bit of a bond between all the vendors in there because you're kind of all dealing with the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People.
So by now, people listening to this episode are like, man, Gino and George, these guys are passionate. They love what they do. Let's talk like some details around, if somebody's a prospective customer listening to this and they're somebody that they've been after some hard to find plecos, or whatever it may be, help me kind of understand, one, what sets you apart from your competition. And I think in the beginning, we talked a little bit about, your quarantine process. I want you to kind of go through what you guys do for quarantine. And then I want to give you guys an opportunity to talk about some of the really cool fish in particular, drop some names on some of the cool fish that you guys have right now that you're really proud about.
Yeah, no problem. Quarantine's pretty important to us. We do pride ourselves on our quarantine process, and it's pretty simple and straightforward. The fish come in, they're pretty stressed out. They went from a river to a tank to a bag with a little bit of water and some oxygen in it, onto a plane and into our tanks. So they're super stressed out.
That's that. And sometimes the fish come from super remote locations. They could be traveling from one segment of the country by boat for 30 hours. And then they get to the holding facility, the facility of the exporter, where they're there for a week or two while we're setting up paperwork. And then the plane, and then 30-something hours in a bag, and then they just got dropped into a completely different set of waters. Not a river anymore. Now you're in a glass box with filtration and...
Yeah, where it's basically up to man to take care of properly. But it's fun. We get a shipment of fish. And, of course, we're nervous, until we open those boxes and see how the fish are doing. But we're also really excited. There's nothing like holding up a bag of fish that just came in on import and taking a look at what's inside of it. But once they get in our tanks, we let them sit for a little bit. We'd like to hit them with dewormer right away, but due to all the stress and whatnot, at least from our viewpoint, they could develop some external infections, whether it be something as common as ick or velvet, like an external parasite or fungus. They can get bacterial infections just from being stressed out and being introduced to new water, So we keep an eye out for that. And depending on the fish, there's some that are more hardier than others, an angel, a Peruvian angelfish versus some type of whiptail that requires high flow and low pH and sand and whatnot. So we'll keep an eye on the fish, make sure they're doing well, and that could be anywhere from 5 to 7 days. If we don't notice anything external on the fish within a week or so, we will hit them with dewormer, and we use a variety of medications, fenbendazole, levamisole, depending on what we might see or whatever on the fish, flubendazole, metronidazole, just a lot of external antibiotics and just a bunch of internal dewormers and whatnot, antibiotics to take care of whatever might be in those fish, because they can live in the wild with worms and stuff like that. They're not stressed out. They're in their natural habitat with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of gallons of fresh water every day. So it's a lot different. Once they hit our tanks, you never know. Things can go south. Things can be really well. We do our best, that's for sure. It can never be 100% guarantee like this fish won't die on you, but we definitely do our best, and we've had really, really good success with the way we handle the fish once they hit our tanks so far. Yeah.
And kind of as a rule of thumb, so you get one order of fish in, how long do you like to sit on that fish just in general before you make it available for sale? Maybe
minimum 21 days.
21 days?
Minimum.
Okay, cool.
We've had fish sit in quarantine for 21 days. We've had fish sit in quarantine for 60 plus. It really depends on the situation, because sometimes they'll continue to deal with stuff. Sometimes we have the fish come in, they're perfect. We hit them with dewormer. They're all eating fine. Everything's good.
Poop looks good. The poop's important.
But with that being said, we go through a quarantine process, and we still recommend to our customers go through a quarantine process. You look at your tank. If you have a nice setup, look at your tank and just do the math. Do the math between what you have in stock, what you have in decorations. The decorations aren't a big thing because that's not going to go away on you, but just look at stock. If you're an avid collector, like when I was in discus, that was my rule of thumb. When I was in discus, QT, even if you're buying from the same source within the same league, it didn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, you quarantine no matter what, because all you have to do is look at your tank and do the math. I remember once I looked at my discus tank and my guy was like, "Oh, you could just throw them right in that." What? No. You know what I mean?
Like $5,000 in that tank.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. It's important. It's important to quarantine.
Definitely.
Yeah, so,
I mean, probably one of the most important things in the world.
I really like hearing you guys talk about quarantine, and again, your passion for the hobby is coming through. I really hope people listening to this are picking up on what you guys are saying, because, the longer a quarantine period is, right? Like, the moment you guys get those fish, those are dollars tied up in inventory, right? And the fact that you have this mentality of minimum of 21 days, and you're saying, basically this fish, we don't want to sell it. We don't want it to leave our facility until we feel it's at a point where, it's healthy, it's going to have a really good chance at somebody's house, right? Even though you're still advocating for an additional quarantine, I mean, a lot of people still do that, right? A lot of people still advocate for, a quarantine, even if it's coming from a very reliable source. That's just good practice. But again, if somebody's perspective and they're looking to buy a really unique, rare, albeit an expensive Pleco, those are all qualities that you want your supplier to have, and I think that's really cool to hear you guys talk about that.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, we appreciate that. We definitely pride ourselves on it. It's probably, and that was one of the main reasons, another main reason why I wanted to start the business, because, I love these fish. I wouldn't mind bringing in a few hundred fish, and if they don't sell, I'll keep all of them. That's fine with me. But regardless, I've, as a hobbyist, brought in a ton of fish from all over the place for myself and dealt with all types of diseases. And, fish die. It's easy for a fish to die, and it's easy to not know how to medicate a disease or an infection. So I learned a whole lot on that, just buying fish for myself as a hobbyist. And that was one thing I definitely wanted to bring to the table with our business, right? Like that sets us aside from some of the others. We quarantine our fish. We hit them with medication. We don't bring them out. We don't bring them in and get them out right away.
Yeah, they're not leaving the door within a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's something that I shook my head a few times as a hobbyist getting sick fish. So that was one of my main focuses with this business.
Getting a pleco with his belly, scraping its spine.
No sunken bellies. No sunken bellies. That's bad news.
If you're not into plecos, that's just like a bad sign when you get a pleco in and it's like belly is, hollow. It's went off.
Yeah, and so how often are you guys getting orders in? And on average, how many fish are you getting in each order?
300.
If you average it out, probably about 300, 350 fish in an order. We brought in orders with 300 fish. We brought in orders with 700 fish.
Yes, the lowest I think we ever brought in, which was a bunch of monsters, like 130. The biggest I think we've ever pulled in was, what'd you say, like 6?
Yeah, about 600 fish, maybe a little over 6.
Yeah.
And what's your cadence? Is that once a week or?
Because you have to balance it out because the import list showed wonderful prices, and then you spent $3,000 on fish, awesome. Well, you got 2 G's in shipping, brokerage fees, everything like that. You know what I mean? Like if you place a small order, you're kind of just hurting yourself because it's okay as a hobbyist, as someone who has a gigantic electrical note, the water note's really not bad. Water's cheap, but water note, overhead, DOA to, anticipate things like that. You have to order smart. Otherwise, you spend all this money and then by the time everything's all said and done, it's like, oh my God, we barely even broke even.
You have to account for everything. It's definitely expensive. You don't want to order 100 fish or anything like that. And the shipping is just what makes it super expensive. You get fish for good prices, but then you have a ton of fees and you have to pay for a million things. And
I think our cheapest order to date with fees, just the fees aspect, not even the fish, was probably about $1,700.
Yeah, a couple grand.
Yeah, that's like our cheapest order, I want to say, is around that with all the fees and everything attached to it.
Wow, that's incredible.
The more fish you bring in, the less you own those fish for, when it comes to splitting the costs of bringing them in between each fish.
And that's something that we pride ourselves upon because there's a lot of people who bring in rare fish. I'm not going to say we're not special, but we're not special. There's people who import rare fish. We're not the only show in town. But doing things the way we do, we try to make sure we make things affordable because just because we bring in something rare doesn't mean, oh my God, I'm going to put a sticker tag on it like the moon because I can. You know what I mean? We want people to be able to afford these things that, one, they can never find, and two, it doesn't need to cost the moon. You know what I mean? Like, we can sell it for something that lets us pay our bills and make a little bit of money, but still make it affordable for a consumer to get something that would be, they drool about for 5 years because they don't want to spend the money on what it's been going for years.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. And, why don't we give you guys an opportunity, what are some of the current fish on your guys' stock list that, if somebody kind of new to the wild caught exotic pleco scene, 2 or 3, maybe even 5 of the fish that you currently have that you feel like are showstoppers, you're super proud of, and you would want somebody to check out?
Right now, let's see. Here, easy one for me. L452 Mustang Cactus Pleco, super rare. We brought in 4 of them. Okay,
that's all we can get. Was 4 of them.
Yeah, we tried to get a bunch of them to try and lower the price, but he only had access to 4 of them. That's the only ones they caught, and a couple of them are small, but one of them stands out. Gnarliest fish in the world that I've ever handled. I mean, spikes on it like half a centimeter long. One of the only plecos to legitimately make me bleed. That thing was a riot to get in. When I first saw it, I was like, oh my God, I was shooting messages to people all over the world trying to identify it. Because we didn't know what it was. The guy didn't know what it was. He just knew it was rare.
But it is called a cactus pleco, so the fact that you cut yourself on it, I mean, that's your fault.
Yeah, I mean, I should have worked well. The second time I handled it, I worked well.
So how do you? So I'm looking at this guy right now on Planet Catfish. I mean, it's pretty cool looking, right? Real dark body, spots on. He's got some white spots all over him, and then this zoomed in picture, there are a ton of spikes on him. So, I mean, how did they quadruple bag his bag? I'd imagine he would just tear everything open.
Actually be baffled by how they do some of this stuff. Like, we've done piranhas in the setup for how they send piranhas blew my mind. Okay. Basically, think about going to the grocery store. You get like a package of olives, okay? All right. They drill holes through all of them to put the piranhas into those containers so they wouldn't bite through the bags. Now, for him, they line the bags with like this super thick.
It's got a 6 millimeter bag.
No. It was a thick bag. Remember the blue lining or the yellow lining on the bottom?
Oh yeah. That's the plastic container. Basically, it's a Tupperware container with a bunch of holes drilled through it because the piranhas can bite through the bag in transit.
No. I know what you're talking about. No, I'm talking about the ones the plecos come in. The one in the bottom.
Baskets.
Yeah. The baskets. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they'll ship them in baskets inside a bag. It's pretty funny sometimes. You open the bag up, you're like, oh yeah, of course, right? These piranhas are in Tupperware containers inside bags, so they don't bite through it. It's pretty funny. Or the plecos are in this super thick built cage at the bottom, so they can't pop the bags either. Yeah, because they'll pop through with their pectoral fins for sure.
Wow.
So yeah, sometimes they come in plastic containers inside the bags.
Wow.
Depending on what they are.
Wow. So I mean, there's just so much, right? I mean, just from collecting in the wild, ensuring that the fish is healthy, before they actually ship it, figuring out what the best way is to ship this fish, 2,000 or 3,000 miles, 4,000 miles, so it doesn't pop its bag, getting it to you guys. I mean, there's so much that the normal hobbyist, I guess, or maybe a potential customer of yours doesn't think about, that goes into just getting one of these cool fish into their home aquarium.
Yeah, you're right, and you really wouldn't think about it. You wouldn't think about it until you see the way it's done. I guess you might think about it, but we've definitely learned how these fish get shipped by opening the boxes. Sometimes we have no idea, like, how are they going to ship us this stingray? She's 20 inches. What's going to happen? And she'll come in a 4 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot box, and we're like, what the hell is in that box? So they do their job pretty right.
Yeah,
Some of our shipments, they get re-oxygenated pretty much halfway through their travels, I guess you can say.
Oh wow! So I'm looking at your posted picture of a black piranha, and I see a black glove holding a black piranha, and then underneath it, it's like a deli cup with a bunch of holes. Well, with a bunch of holes drilled. Okay.
With the white lid.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. All right, and so what else? Right, the cactus. We've got the cactus Mustang cactus pleco. I'm sorry, L452. What's another one that you guys are really proud of that you think people should check out, or that I should look up right now on?
The true Colombian whiptail.
The chameleon whiptail. The chameleon whiptail is its common name. They are absolutely gorgeous fish, and I remember looking for those things for myself a few years ago as a hobbyist, and I could never find them, or at least I could never find them for less than like $150, $200 area, depending on size. And we were really excited to bring those in for the first time, which this is our probably fifth time or so, sixth time bringing them in, but it seems like they're getting captured more often now. They're becoming a little bit more available. So I definitely suggest everybody who is into the whiptail or the pleco world, check out the Pseudohemiodon apithanos or the chameleon whiptail, because they're available and they're awesome.
And they're cheaper than they ever were. They used to be $150 plus. We sell them for $70 now.
Yeah.
Wow, nice. That's definitely a good drop in price for people. And how many of those do you guys have right now?
20 something
like that. Yeah,
I don't know, something along those lines.
Very cool.
I can go count for you. It's probably about 20, so give or take a few.
Well, once we go into the fish room, though, all you're going to hear is like the rumblers. I mean, the bubblers in the back. That's why we ended up having to do this interview somewhere else, because if we were down there, all you hear is.
It's a good sound though when you open up the door to the room and you start walking. All you hear is the rumble from all the sponge filters. It's pretty beautiful.
I was about to say it's something like you're not used to hearing, and it's really neat.
You can hear it through the vents in the rest of the house.
It's harmonic.
Oh, very nice.
Very soothing.
Very nice. And so let's go one last fish. What do you want people to check out that you guys have right now that you think is really cool? Well, I know right now you've got a blue-eye panock that 18 inches. The sucker is massive. I'm looking at.
Yeah, one of my profile picture for my Facebook is me holding our giant 418. We have a gigantic blue eye, 17 and a half, 18 inches with the trailer, and we have like an 18 and a quarter inch L418. That thing is massive. Every time I handle it, it rips open my thumb. Not like causes blood, but like it's just a man.
George, you sound like a glutton for punishment, man.
It's probably older than us, honestly.
Oh yeah, some of these fish are older than we are, for sure.
To reach that size, it's 25 plus years old. You know what I mean? Like, it's a big boy. It's an old fish.
Wow, very cool. And so let's talk about without showing too much of your hand, what do you think is in the works for Pleco Paradise in the future? Where do you see Pleco Paradise in the next 5 years?
Well, we have some special stuff coming on at the end of this year. We're going to venture out into some different countries. I kind of want to keep it a surprise, but we're going to work on bringing some cool stuff in from areas outside of South America and kind of upping our oddball game. So I'm pretty excited for that. I'm going to kind of keep it on the lowdown for, as of after everything I just said. That's pretty much all I'm going to say. We're going to bring some cool stuff in at the end of the year.
No, very cool, man. That's definitely something where if people weren't already following you, that may have piqued their curiosity, and just a simple, we'll have it in the show notes, but just head on over to Pleco Paradise, maybe your Facebook page, hit the follow button, and just get those notices. So Gino alluded to something pretty cool in the works, coming from a different country they're not getting right now. So.
Also, I definitely know one of our future goals, which we're going to try to reach as much as possible, we've already started, is to reach out to more local fish stores and kind of get on a little bit of a wholesale area so that we can supply some of these fish stores that may be in rural areas or just don't have access to a lot of the stuff we bring in. We definitely like to – we love our retail customers and everything, and we're always going to do that. But we would like to venture out and start supplying some people with their fish, or at least a portion of their fish, because we just have access to so many cool species from so many different areas. We could definitely help a lot of people out with that.
That's awesome, man. So Gino and George, thank you very much, and I want to give you guys this last part of the interview to, give some shout-outs if you haven't had a chance to, plug some other businesses out there that have really helped you guys along, or, who you think people should check out. I know already one off the top of my head, we haven't talked about her yet, but you guys can go ahead and drop that for her. And then also let us know how we can get a hold of you.
Okay, I think a couple of the ways to get a hold of us, of course, is the Facebook business page. Pleco Paradise LLC, www.facebook.com/Pleco Paradise LLC. After that, our Gmail is plecoparadisellc.com.
At gmail.com.
I'm sorry, at gmail.com. My apologies.
Yeah.
You can email us there.
Same thing with Instagram.
Yep,
Instagram, Pleco Paradise LLC. Just make sure you throw the LLC in there, and it'll lead you right to us. Also, if you find us on Facebook through our business page, if you send us a message, our instant response gives you both of our phone numbers, so that if for some reason we might miss a message or so, give us a call, shoot us a text. That's another thing that might set us apart. We try to be as personable as possible. We'll talk to customers for a couple hours on the phone sometimes, and we love it. This is what we do. We're here to help you guys out. Customer service, the way we handle our customers, is something we pride ourselves on. Yet again, we take care of everybody. And that's probably something that we've learned from the car business, selling cars and whatnot. We definitely know how important it is for you to be able to get a hold of us, check on fish after they come in if you have any questions, or check on fish after they arrive at your house. We're always here to help you out. We want to know how the fish are doing after you receive them, and we want to be able to answer any questions that you have.
We love the 6 month later videos where the fish is, swimming across the tank, is super chunky and fat, just laid a cluster. You know what I mean? We love that stuff.
Yep, most definitely. So give us a call, shoot us a text, Facebook, Instagram, email, doesn't matter.
Yeah, our phones are always on like 4%, but they're not that long. I promise you.
And what about that? What about that shout out to one of your favorite Pacific Northwest customers?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, shout out to Gold Coast Aquatics and Christina Ganji. The food we feed our fish is so important, everybody. And there's a lot of food on the market. There's cheap food, there's expensive food, but it's super important. Our fish eat better than we do. And the food that Gold Coast Aquatics has, Ebo Aquarius Stick, it's fantastic. And Sarah Bills, too, at Cascadia Aquatics.
Yeah, she just started selling food now.
She's got some fantastic food, tropical. She's got that available to anybody who might need it.
All right. Excellent.
K&M.
Yeah, K&M, yeah, Kevin Keith. Solid guy, and on top of that, he makes a really, really good quality product. We have 1 million of his caves in the fish room. I couldn't even imagine how much weight and stone we have bought from him, to be 100% honest. Yeah, definitely. You definitely got to support a bunch of good businesses out there.
Awesome.
There's a bunch of good people in this hobby, and there's a lot of people who are just good for the hobby. And, a lot of the people that we deal with and pride ourselves in calling our friends are really solid people in this business that we hope to see in this business with us, ideally, just like we hope to be in this business this long, in 20-something years,
Yeah, we're all in this together. If you're looking for African cichlids, hit up DATZ Cichlids.
Yeah.
D-A-T-Z. They know what's up.
Everything in-house.
Pretty much breeds everything he has, for the most part.
God bless him,
super knowledgeable, can help you out with anything you need, and has some super high-quality, healthy fish.
And another thing, too, we were talking about Gold Coast's food. We don't even talk about the fact that she's also the sole importer for Ricky Lim's discus.
No, yeah,
one of the first people to bring in his fish in a long time. And, she won awards at NADA, which is like a discus competition, I want to say she won like 5 awards. First time showing up, really good source for that. Same thing for Jeffrey Moy. I'm a big fan of him. He's just maybe because he's local to me. I've had the pleasure of meeting him numerous times. But another great source for discus.
Sounds like people we should have on the Aquarius podcast to come on and talk about what they're doing.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Call all of them, man.
Peer pressure is a real thing.
There you go.
I highly encourage it sometimes, in situations like this especially.
All right, guys. Well, I can tell you right now, I'm just loving your guys' passion. I love your sense of community. I love your sense of, your devotion to making these fish available, ensuring that they're healthy stock for people. And so if any listener out there, if you're interested in, these exotic plecos, or other exotic fish, I would strongly encourage you to check out Pleco Paradise. I've had a blast talking to you guys. And even if you're not looking to buy, just go check it out and see what they have. Check out this Mustang cactus, Pleco that they have that's, cutting George's hand every time he touches it. And, they have to ship it in a crazy Tupperware custom container to keep it from busting bags. So you guys are doing a lot of really cool stuff, and I look forward to seeing really cool things from you in the future too.
Yeah, you definitely will, man. We're in it for the long run. We're going to be here for a while. You can't get rid of us.
All right, guys. Excellent. We'll have to have you back on then.
Yeah, and we'll have to have you on one of our expeditions once we finally do that.
Oh man, it's on, definitely. All right, guys. Well, you have a great evening. Thank you so much for staying up late with me tonight.
Thanks. No worries. Honored to be here. Thanks for the opportunity, man.
All right, take care. Thank you again for listening to the Aquarius Podcast. As always, get involved in your local fish club, help grow this wonderful hobby, and have fun with other fish nerds.